Hi, it's Dave here from the Community Church, and during the last week we've seen public demonstrations around the world as a result of the tragic killing of George Floyd at the hands of police officers in the USA. Due to the season we're in, our meetings are pre-recorded, so it can seem like we're ignoring world issues if events happen between the recording and the publishing of our meetings. However, we did want to take this opportunity to share a few thoughts about the current situation. There is outrage and anger at the senseless loss of life, and it has once again raised issues about racism, prejudice, and discrimination in society. Many high-profile firms and celebrities have expressed support, in particular for the Black Lives Matter campaign. And there's been a huge call for justice for George Floyd and his family. We've seen Liverpool and Chelsea football clubs taking a knee, with the Chelsea staff forming the letter H for humans. Their captain, Cesar Azpilicueta, spoke powerfully about why the staff had been pictured taking a knee. He said these words, he said, "We want to use our position to express that we are living in a world where we have to try to improve it for the future, to be a better world with more love, without hate." Here are a few things that we would like to add to those thoughts. Firstly, the Bible tells us that God so loved the world that he gave his son. He loved the world. That's all people everywhere. And colour of skin, age, social class, and ethnicity gives no one a right to a greater privilege or status in the eyes of God, nor should it with us. God values all people, and so should we. The second point is that we must make ourselves aware of the issues that others face. Ignorance is not bliss. Just earlier this week, it was highlighted to me how different my life is when I heard one African-American dad describe how his son's first driving lesson was how to deal with a pullover by the police. His boy was told to stay still, put his hands on the top of the steering wheel, make no sudden movements, be polite and do whatever the officer said. Otherwise, he might be shot. It was a far cry from my three daughters, whose first driving lesson was about the exterior, interior, and controls of the car. Being from a white Western European background often fails to illuminate my understanding to the pressures that people of Black, Asian, and minority ethnic backgrounds encounter on a daily basis. So let's try to be informed and aware about the issues being highlighted at the moment, even if you might think it has no relevance to you. My third point is that we must be those who speak out. Silence should not be an option that we give ourselves. I heard a quote from Bishop Desmond Tutu, who said, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor." In Psalm 12 and verse 5, we read words from our God speaking and saying, "I have seen violence done to the helpless, and I have heard the groans of the poor. Now I will rise up to rescue them, as they have longed for me to do." Our God not only sees all things, hears all things, but he speaks and takes action. As he is, so should we be. So let's use our voice to speak up for love and justice. Fourthly, can I also say that in life, we all can play a part in being a peacemaker and a reconciler, especially at this time. In 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 18, Paul shares how not only have we been reconciled to God when we find faith in Jesus Christ, but we all have a ministry of reconciliation. In his letter to the Thessalonians, Paul shares some practical advice as to how to respond when something bad happens. He says, make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but always we should strive to do what is good for each other and for everyone else. Now that is the kind of alternative society we would all like to see. This week, many of us may have seen pictures of an angry crowd descending on a police station in the United States. On previous nights, police stations have been attacked, torched, cars set light, and yet in this situation, a church pastor came between the officers and the people, and in an act of humility and remembrance, the crowd and the police bowed the knee, the pastor prayed, and the people dispersed without violence or injury. Here a man of peace, help bring peace and hopefully some reconciliation to a local community in what must have been a very frightening situation. Let's be clear, that does not mean we can't protest, march, make our voices heard over issues. For we have already said we need to speak up, but we must be wary of all those who are divisive and would seek to stir up hatred, prejudice and further resentment at times like this. And finally, we must be a people of prayer at this time. Prayer for those who've lost and suffer pain. Prayer for peace and reconciliation. Pray that societies may be united and not divided. And pray for governments, leaders and nations, in particular in the States at the moment. Pray that they may have wisdom and the will to act to take a stand against prejudice, racism and its roots in society. Let's pray that people will encounter the love and faithfulness of God, that justice will be served and seen to be served, and that there will be a binding up of spiritual forces that are in play at the moment. That the roots of prejudice and discrimination might at this time be dealt a death blow. At the community church, we'll be praying along those lines. But in the meantime, thanks for taking the time just to listen to these words, and may we all know the love and life of Jesus and the security and peace that comes with knowing that life. Stay safe, stay well, be blessed and be a blessing.